Hi, this is Joy Neas with Behind the Art Scene on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. And today my guest is Marianne Prieto. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
So Marianne is the director over at the Children's Museum, and so we're going to be talking about some of their exhibits and some of her community outreach. She does such a wonderful job at the Children's Museum. So how did we first meet, Marianne?
Oh, gosh, I feel like it's been years.
It's been years because it was before you became the director. What was your position there?
Before I was a museum specialist, so I was kind of like the right-hand person to the director at the time. And I want to say it was during one of the art splashes, I think it was, when you had invited us out that we actually got together.
Really?
And I know we had done something at the Mexican Heritage Center before.
Right.
That might have been the first time we met. Yeah.
Years and years.
Years ago.
So how long have you been working there?
I have been there for almost 11 years.
Well,
almost
okay.
11
All
years.
right,
Yeah. We're aging us a little bit. Yep, almost 11 years, and I love it. Never thought that I'd be director after all.
So how did you come to be there?
I applied to be a summer camp counselor. You're fresh out of college, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, and I just loved kids. I actually had my degree in accounting, of all things, and I saw the summer job. I said I could do that, and later got hired on as a cashier. And I said, okay. I was planning my bachelor's at the time as well, so while I was going to school, I, was working at the museum as a cashier, and just slowly throughout the years, I just started learning more and more and more, and really enjoyed it and loved working with the children. And I have my degree in business administration, but still just loved working with the children. And, the stars kind of aligned towards the end, and our previous director really thought a lot of me to recommend me to the board, and they accepted. And I'm going on 2 years now as executive director, and I hope to keep going. So it's quite the journey, definitely quite the journey, but it's been a learning experience for sure.
So I mean, you have such passion, and I think that the whole financial background that really helps you.
It does
keep it on track and everything.
It does, for sure. There's a lot that a director does that I don't think even I realize. I learn something new every day. But I have a good team with my staff and the board, so there's always somebody to turn to help with us. So it's definitely, we have a small crew at the museum there, but it's a lot of very passionate people that work at the museum too. So we're very lucky.
So you've been getting more and more traveling exhibits.
Yes.
Why don't you tell us about the upcoming exhibit that is coming?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't really know what a traveling exhibit is, and we hadn't had one in a good 6-7 years. They're quite expensive. Exhibits are not cheap, and we were very fortunate this past winter to actually receive the Smokey Bear traveling exhibit, and Joy was there to do some really fun chalk drawings for us of Smokey and Woodsy Owl. And when that came in, it really brought in a lot of people because it created a buzz about the museum again. Oh, there's something new and exciting. And traveling exhibits are basically a rental. So they travel from different museums throughout the country, and so other children get to see it. So it's a really nice way to bring new people in. So when Smokey Bear left, we were all really sad about it because we thought, well, we want to really bring something new back to the museum, and we had the opportunity to bring in this new one. It's Trivial Pursuit, a 50-state adventure, and it's super exciting because it reaches all ages. So it'll reach the younger children, but then also the older kids. We often find that we have younger children that come in and they have older siblings, and sometimes they tend to get a little bit bored at the museum because sometimes some of the exhibits are geared for our little ones a little bit. But this exhibit will have an exhibit for each of the 50 states, and there'll also be kiosks that the kids can play with as well to actually do the trivia games that everyone knows Trivial Pursuit to be for, where the adults can get involved too. So we're super excited. It'll be here September 23rd, and we have it for 8 months, all the way through May, so through the entire school year. So it'll be really exciting. It's huge too.
So do you have some special days planned to go with that?
Definitely. We are looking at having some free admission days, definitely, to get some people into the museum that maybe have never been to the museum before. Some folks that in our community that maybe can't afford the admission costs to come in. We really want to reach our families throughout the entire community. So we are looking to have some free admission days as well. Those haven't been set yet because we want to make sure that the exhibit is up and running properly before we set that. We want to make sure everything is working well, but we should look for that in October for sure. And then probably later in the future months as well to have some fun events that tie into the 50 states. It's a very broad topic, so it'll be a lot of fun.
So can you like give one example of one activity that they would see?
Absolutely. One that I am just so excited about every time I see the photos and the videos of it. There's for Alaska. They have an actual dog sledding example for the kids. So says the dog's there, the kids can climb on the sled, and then there's a video screen in front of them. And it's voice activated. So when they yell mush, the dogs will actually start running.
Oh, wow.
And it's super cute because it makes the kids feel like they're in that state. California has a car and some scenic redwood trees, and it talks about a lot of the beauty that we have in California. That one's really exciting. There's also one with Old Faithful. It actually, kids can press a button and they'll see Old Faithful burst into the air. It's really neat.
Oh, wow.
So it really gives kids, it picks landmarks of each state is what it does. Of course, New York City has Statue of Liberty, but then it also has Times Square. So the kids can see themselves on the big Jumbotron dancing around with the video screen. So there's a lot of technical components to it, which I think will really keep everybody engaged, the adults as well. And then, of course, some facts about the states as well. So I couldn't be happier with this one. I'm really excited. It'll be a lot of fun.
So how did you find out about that? Were you able to get it?
Well, actually, we partnered with the same museum. It's the Betty Bryn Children's Museum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and they're an amazing museum. They actually build exhibits. So we've worked with them on a couple of our exhibits, and then also with Smokey Bear. So when we worked with them, and it was such a great experience to work with them through Smokey Bear, that we said, what else do you guys have available? And they said, well, we have Trivial Pursuit, and you could take it for 2 terms for 8 months. And our board talked about it, and we're going to do some heavy fundraising for that pretty soon to help support it. But it just worked all well together, working with them again.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
When I saw that Smokey Bear and Woodsy Owl were coming, that's from my childhood. and my husband actually, he was in the Boy Scouts.
Oh, perfect.
And one time he was Smokey Bear.
Very cool.
So we have a long history with Smokey Bear and Woodsy the Owl. And I said, okay, I got to go there and do some chalk drawings. And then I got to meet Smokey the Bear and Woodsy Owl, and got my picture taken.
Yep.
Wow.
It was definitely a rock star moment. Yes.
That was a thrill.
What was neat was we were able to work with the Girl Scouts as well. So the Girl Scouts, first time in the history of the museum, we had a sleepover at the museum, and that was all brought on by Smokey Bear. They were able to earn their fire safety patch, and so they came in, they spent the night at the museum, and it was really neat to see that, and they did it all because of that exhibit.
How many Girl Scouts?
We had about 60 girls,
wow.
and 30 of their chaperones, and myself and one of my staff. We got to stay the night at the museum too, so it was interesting.
So
to say the least, but cute.
Are you going to have more staying
that
overnight?
Would be really neat. Yeah, I would love to do something.
That
like
would be wonderful.
Yeah, it would be really neat. It was cute just seeing because we have such a fun environment at the museum, to see where everyone decided to fall asleep. So we had girls sleeping in the fire truck, in the police car, in the grocery store. It was hilarious seeing it. It was really cute. So I would love to do something like that again. Yeah.
And I really look forward to this Trivial Pursuit and cross country. More and more, I'm looking at Facebook and seeing everyone traveling.
Yes.
And all the different states they're going to, countries around the world. I think people love to travel.
Yes.
And just go see what other places have to offer.
Right.
Like actually Alaska. My visit to Alaska changed my life forever.
Oh, wow.
When I graduated from high school, I was able to go on an Alaskan cruise.
Oh, how nice.
And I had gotten away from art all through high school. I had a bad experience in 8th grade, so I did some other things during high school. But when I went on the cruise, it was a lifelong learning cruise. And one of the, we had little classes on board ship. One of them was a drawing class, an art class. And after I took that and the beautiful scenery and everything, I came back, I said, I'm going to devote my life to art.
That's amazing.
That's what got me back into it. So,
there you go. That's really neat.
I loved seeing the glaciers. We flew over a glacier. And then we went down and had a beautiful salmon barbecue dinner, and I got to see puffins on the rock.
Oh, very cool.
All those guys. But I've always wanted to go and do the Iditarod, watch the sled races and everything. So just to be able to go experience that
is really neat, and that's what we like about the way the exhibit is designed, is that it's supposed to be like a road trip throughout the states, and so it takes the kids on basically a road trip if they maybe have never been able to travel, or everyone's busy and it's tough times right now too. So it really lets them escape through that medium, and they can literally walk through and see all the 50 states and what each state, what they're known for or what their landmarks are. So we're so happy to have that one. I think it's great for our community as well, kind of gets the parents involved as well, so the parents can come in and say, oh, I visited this state, or let me tell you about where I grew up, and it really gets the families involved. That's what I'm so passionate about at the museum, is having the families involved, the parents and the children interacting, the grandparents and the grandchildren interacting. That's what means so much to me, that I love seeing on a daily basis. So I think this exhibit will really enhance that at the museum as well. So you'll have to be there on the first day. I'll let you know.
One of the best features of the museum I really like is your art studio.
Yes.
And you guys have different art projects in there.
Yep.
Why don't you talk about some of the special art things you've done?
Yes, so what we really pride ourselves on in the art studio is using recyclable materials. We've always, since I've been at the museum, that's something we've always been very proud of, because it gets children thinking on a different wavelength. Art isn't just about crayons and paints, and you can go so far with it. So what we do is we encourage our visitors to bring in toilet paper rolls and egg cartons and newspaper, old cereal boxes, whatever it may be, and bring them to donate them to the museum. And we basically just let the children create whatever they want. We will have some examples set aside for different projects. I think this month they're doing ice cream cones out of different materials, things like that pertain to the season or the holidays. But then we also have what we call a collaging table, that is basically just an array of supplies, cut up ribbon, magazine clippings, wrapping paper, fabric that people just donate to us, and we just let the children create whatever they want. And it's nice because I think sometimes as adults we like to tell children how things are supposed to look, especially when it comes to art. And I see that, the parents mean well, but I see that a lot where the parents are telling the children, no, this goes here, this goes there. And that's why we don't like to have examples for our collaging table. You just make whatever you want and, be excited about it.
So do the kids take those home? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And what we find ends up happening is that those children will want to save the recyclables at home, and they bring them to the museum to donate, or they end up taking that at home with them. I can make something out of this, plastic container. I don't have to throw it away. And that way it's helping our environment as well in a small way, but it also lets the kids be incredibly creative. My nephew just the other day was making fidget spinners out of the McDonald's drink carriers. He was punching out the bottom of it. And I said, okay, well, that works. So I think letting kids do that is so important. It doesn't hinder them at all. It lets them just express themselves, and doing that in the art studio is just another way that we can do that. So we're happy to have it, and we've done many other projects in the art studio as well. We like to tailor it towards, like I said, different events or holidays and things like that. When we had Smokey Bear, we did a special campfire project, and we're gonna have to come up with something elaborate for our 50 states. Probably do a different state every week, who knows? Or 2 a week. But yeah, it really is something that when that art studio is closed, people are not happy, because it is such an important aspect to the museum. And I noticed too that, obviously art and music is being taken out of our schools too and whatnot, and it's hard for kids to get that time to express themselves, and I think parents forget about that too, the importance of it. So oftentimes we'll have parents come in and they'll let their child sit there for an hour, 2 hours, and just create whatever they want, and that's really special, and I hope that they take that back home with them too. It doesn't have to be messy, it doesn't have to be paints all over your carpet, It can be as simple as glue and some popsicle sticks. So I love that we have the opportunity for the kids at the museum.
Yeah, actually I was going to mention when I've put out different art experiences for kids and activities, it's usually the parent that's, come on, we have to get going.
They're rushing.
Okay,
Yes.
That's all the time you have. We have to leave now.
Right.
Okay. But it would be so nice for them to give, let the child be there for as long as they need to be there.
Yes, absolutely. It really is nice. I see that too often, I think because just as adults, our nature is just rush, go, 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 constant, and to really just slow down and watch that child and see what they do. I mean, even just taking a step back and watching the kids while they play with some of the exhibits, letting them actually play, letting them pretend, get into their zone, that's so important for kids. And, I'm seeing it more and more where parents are really slowing down, which is nice, and slowing down and engaging with the child, or just letting them be, let them color, with every color crayon that they find, every color in the box, let them do it. And, I always find too, not to ask them what they made, because sometimes they don't even know. It's really just the experience, it's the experience of gluing those two things together, or painting. It's the experience of it that they don't even know what they're making. It's just the experience of it. So, we try to encourage that too. And then let the parents do it too. There's no problem with that either.
There we go.
Yeah, get the adults involved too.
Yeah. So I wanted to mention thank you. I'd like to thank the Children's Museum for last year for Art Break Day. For letting me set up Art Break Day in front of the museum. So we had tables and some tents and all kind of art activities for anybody who would like to come, free art making. And there was one woman there. It's on my event posting on Facebook. My favorite picture of the day. There was a woman who brought her little daughter. I think she must have stayed there hours and hours, but the mother was, she was drawing, but then she would also help her daughter draw, and she was teaching her different techniques. Oh, you can make this cat, and they were doing the art together.
Right.
And then it was the most fabulous thing I ever saw. She went up, because it was right next to, you guys have the lawn in front, and they picked like little flowers off the lawn, and she ended up making, somehow, she took all the flowers and made like a little braided wreath for her daughter's, like a crown for her daughter's head. And so she was like using everything around her environment to make art. And I think we had something there, and she's okay. Instead of just like drawing your traditional drawing or painting, you could take this and let's dip that in the paint and make like a print out of it.
Oh, there you go.
So she was opening her daughter's world to all these different experiences, just from, you could do this, and have you thought about this?
Right.
And I was amazed.
And it's such a simple concept too, if you just take the time to do it, really just take the time to teach your child something like that, or express in different ways, be silly, those are so important for children now. And that was great. I remember you telling me that story. That was amazing to see.
It was such a bonding moment that she would take the time to be with her child.
Right.
Instead of like, you go play, or you go draw.
I'm going to sit here and on my phone.
But, she was experiencing it with her, and they were sharing. And I think that to me was, what a mother should be.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're lucky to see that often.
Right.
You know, it's so important. And, you know, with just, even if you're not an artistic person yourself, just encourage your child to be, you know, let them go crazy with the paint one day. You know, let them have fun. We did spray painting on the walls with kids one day, and we had water bottles filled with tempera paint and water, and they just let them shoot the walls, and it didn't matter. You know, some of the parents were telling, okay, that's enough. You know, it looks good like that. The kids just like the experience of it, and the fact that they were spraying paint on the wall. Who doesn't like that? You know,
you had covered the wall with a plastic.
Yes, and then we put the paper up, and that was their target.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I dream of. I want a studio where I can just go spray
go nuts. Yeah.
Go crazy.
Absolutely.
I had talked to Erin Elizabeth Young. I don't know if you know her. So she's an artist in town. She makes these rose paintings for the World Peace Rose Garden at University Park.
Yes.
But she had this studio up at Lincoln Center, and she would cover the walls with drop cloths. And I took one of her classes, and we ended up like painting on the drop cloths, you know.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So, you know, we were painting everything. You know,
right.
It just didn't have to be the canvas. And then after she has a drop cloth finished, a lot of times she sells the drop cloth.
Oh, there you go.
So she signs it, and I'm going to sell my drop cloth.
Oh, there you go. That works.
Then she gets a new one.
Right, and just does it all over again.
But I love that chalk, the chalk event that we had in your back patio area. You have such a beautiful back
so
area.
Lucky. Yes.
So, are you planning on doing that again? We need to do that again.
We need to do it again. And thank you for bringing that to us. I honestly didn't even know such a thing existed. So thank you for that. And yes, that was so much fun. We did it twice last year, and we focused on multicultural. And it was amazing just to see what people came up with. And what I loved at the last one we did, I think it was in September, was that we had people in the community that just came out to visit with their children, and they were doing these beautiful masterpieces, and that was amazing to see. You know, we invited different artists and people to come in to do theirs, and I think it just inspired them, the visitors. And so I had one mother who did one with her child, and a dad and a little girl, 12-year-old little girl, did one, and it was just amazing that it brought so many people together, and there was no critiquing, there was no judging, it was just for fun, and that was amazing. So yes, I'm really excited to hopefully we can get one done this fall with Trivial Pursuit. That way we can focus on a 50-state adventure type of a theme, and see what we can come up with. But yes, it was so worth it. It was such a great event. Both times it was so much fun.
I know the first time we had the entertainment, the drummers.
Yes.
And so it's a way to almost have a little festival all around chalk, and have music. You know, maybe we could have dance or something, but that gets the energy going, the excitement. Right. And I know that I was out at I was thinking about the 50 states. They had the Liberty Park. The Reinvent South Stockton. Oh yes. Did a new playground at Liberty Park, and one of the things they did, they got I think it was a stencil for to be able to put a map of the United States.
Oh, very cool.
On the basketball court. So they painted this whole thing. It's right in the middle of the basketball court.
Oh my gosh.
At Liberty Park. But maybe you could get like a scaled down version of it. That one was quite large, but we could make like a whole map of the 50 states.
And let whomever take a state. Yeah, that would be so much fun.
And we could all draw that together or something.
That would be really neat. And I think having even just an artistic interpretation of what that state means to you. You know, if you're not just doing a solid color, maybe you add a little bit something to it. That would be a lot of fun. That would be really neat.
Have you seen, I had mentioned this also on another show, they have a new show on TV called State Plate.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
It is so great. Oh, and so they go through the state, they pick a state each time, but it's kind of the history of what to put on your dinner plate.
Oh, very cool.
So what the state is known for.
Mm-hmm.
So and what like different parts of the state, and they like in California. I was wondering, okay, what are you going to have on your dinner plate? So what do you think they had?
They had to have asparagus and avocados, I'd imagine.
Okay, they had avocados.
At least.
They had avocados. They made guacamole with chips. They didn't have asparagus.
Really?
No. But what they focused on was, like they said, in Castroville.
Okay.
Just in one area of California, it's known for its artichokes.
Okay,
So
that makes sense.
That's like the only place pretty much they grow. So they put the artichoke on the plate. And then they did talk about San Francisco, about the sourdough bread.
I forgot about that.
Had the bread. But then the main dish was cioppino, was like all the different seafoods all put into one.
Okay.
So that's really, but I have to say I was very disappointed with the dessert.
Oh.
They went to an almond orchard.
Oh, okay. Almonds make sense.
And now we're going to take all the almonds and we're going to put them in cinnamon sugar.
And that's it?
That was our dessert.
Oh, that's no fun.
No.
We're worth more than that.
No. So I was trying to think, what would you have for California's dessert?
Oh gosh, that's a tough. But more than that, I would say.
I was thinking like Ghirardelli chocolate.
Yes, there you go.
Or C's or any of these things that.
There you go.
Almond. Cinnamon almonds.
Maybe they were reaching a little bit.
But that might be a fun thing you could tie in with this exhibit.
Right.
You could say, okay, you've seen that show on TV, State Plate. What would you have for all your different states for food and the places you've visited?
Yes, there's so much that we can do with this, and I'm so glad that we were able to take it for the 2 terms. Normally it would have been just 3 months, and I felt like that just wasn't enough time, to really emphasize this exhibit and get all that we could out of it. So having it through May of next year, we'll really be able to have an opportunity to do a lot of fun events and different art activities and
I think I need a planning meeting with you.
There we go. I think so.
I can help you brainstorm activities.
Oh yes, no, I appreciate it.
So I wanted to talk to you about your outreach, because I just think it's amazing. You're seeing the bus.
Yes.
The Children's Museum bus, and it goes to all different events and everything.
Yes.
So how does that work?
So basically, we were gifted an old carpenter bus, a 22-passenger carpenter bus, which is a school bus, basically. And so we were gifted it, and we thought, okay, what could we do with this? We thought, we can do field trips or whatnot. And so our previous director had come up with the idea to let's create a mobile art bus. And that's exactly what we did. We took out all of the seats, and you imagine there's actually quite a bit of space in there. And so we took out all of the seats, and what we do now is we take it out to different outreach events, community events, but we've also taken it out to different shelters and locations where we wanted to reach people that maybe couldn't visit the museum and offer free art to them. And that's something that we are, all through funding, through grants and whatnot, we've been very fortunate to be able to keep the program going. And we're hopeful to keep it going still. But it's been a great experience. It really is, because the kids see this bus, and it's an old bus, there's no bells and whistles on it. But I think the idea that it's coming to the children, that this bus is coming for you, and it has all these art activities on it, is just, it's so unique and it's different, and it's something that allows us to bring the museum to the community. And so excited when we see the kids in their faces. They want to climb on the bus and do art, and we'll bring additional tables to put outside of the bus because sometimes we can't fit everybody on the bus, you know.
So how many people can you fit inside?
We can fit probably at least, I'd say at least 10 children to actually go through and climb on the bus and do different art activities and things. One thing that we have found is the weather sometimes doesn't play a good role with us with the bus, so it's either too hot or too cold, so we have to find those springtime, fall-like weather to bring it out. But either way, we'll bring the bus out, and it really gets people excited. So we're really happy that we have the bus, and we're looking just to do more with it. We're hoping to turn it into a mobile reading bus where we can actually bring books out to children and do story time with children. So the options are actually endless on what we could do. We've actually brought out some of our smaller exhibits. We have a mobile marble run that we've brought out. We've brought out our Lego cars with the kids and our building blocks, and so we've done that before too, which is a lot of fun. So we're really grateful to have it.
So you were saying that the bus needs a little work on it. How much money?
To operate the bus, it varies. It's just like a car. So you have to take care of your fine tuning. So you're looking at maybe at least $1,000 a year on that to just keep up with the, not only the fuel costs, but just the maintaining of the bus to keep it running. And luckily it hasn't given us any major problems yet. It's had its moments here and there. But that's why through funding and grants, we've been able to keep it going. We are a nonprofit as well. So every penny helps the museum and helps us to continue these types of programs. We often search for grants that will allow us to do these types of programs for our art studio, for exhibits, for our art bus as well. So we have such great members of our community that are willing to help us out and that keep us going. So we're very grateful.
So we need some mechanics on crew to come help to make sure the art bus is in fine shape.
Yes, keeps it running.
So, can you? I've never gone to the fundraiser that you guys have every year. Why don't you describe that?
Yes, so you're probably referring to the evening fundraiser. Yes. So it's called A Night at the Museum, and it's really a grown-up fundraiser. It's so much fun. What we do is it's in the evening, usually on a Saturday night, and sometime in the spring, usually March, April, and we have wonderful food catered. We have music, dancing. We have a bar, also silent auction and raffle, and it's just a fun event. It's so much fun to just come out, kind of let your hair down, and we have it at the museum, of course. So you can, walk around, and you end up seeing the adults, taking pictures on the fire truck and, just really being silly. But it's a fun event to really showcase what we have at the museum. We like to have our fundraisers at the museum. That way you can actually see, what we have versus being at a hall or something like that. You can actually see in front of you what we have to offer and what we're funding for. But that event is a lot of fun. It's a fun way to raise money, but it gives folks the opportunity to be silly and be a kid again, which is unique.
And the art studio is open?
Typically, sometimes it is. I don't usually see folks doing art in there. What we end up doing is that's kind of where the bar is, so it gets people in there.
So, why don't you explain how the museum got started, its connection with Cleveland School?
Yes. So in 1989, as most of our Stocktonians unfortunately remember, there was a shooting at Cleveland Elementary School. Unfortunately, there were several children that were killed during that, and a lot of children that were injured as well. The faculty also were injured during that time, and at that time, this type of thing just didn't happen. It was one of the first major shootings at a school, and now, unfortunately, you hear about it so much more. But what an amazing thing that came out of it was, our community was wounded after that. Our community it was a hard time. And so one of the teachers that was wounded, her name was Janet Gang. She actually visited a children's museum in Washington, D.C., and she said, you know what, that's what we need in Stockton. We need something to build our community back together, to make our children feel safe again, to make our families feel safe again. And so she got together with a wonderful group of people and basically came up with this idea, and here we are, started in 91, opened the doors in 94, and we're still going. And it's nice because we have a lot of folks that do remember that horrible tragedy, but then they look at us as kind of something that brought the community out of it. And that's what I'm so, grateful to have, a uplifting story out of such a tragedy and to be involved with the museum. And a lot of our board members that were involved are still with us today on the board, and they're so passionate about the museum because of that. So it's a unique story. And, some folks don't know about it, and it's kind of it's a sombering story to tell, but then it brings a little bit of joy and light back, after something so tragic. So, we're grateful to be in the community still, and give a place. That's what I always like to sell the museum as a safe place for kids. It's a fun place. It's a safe place. And I like to think of it as giving the kids their own world to go into. They get to come in and it's their world. It's what they want to do. They get to pretend and think about what they want to be when they grow up, and go in the art studio and build whatever they want to build and create what they want to create. And it lets them have their own place. Let the adults step back a little bit. Don't tell them what to do. Let them create. So it's a great place. I'm so grateful that we're still there.
So something so beautiful came out of that tragic moment.
Yes.
And I went to a meeting this past week, and it kind of breaks my heart, really. But there's this train station up on Main Street, and unfortunately they had a couple fires.
Yes.
And now they were trying to get permission to knock down the train station, demolition.
Oh, gosh.
And so we all, 8 of us, went and spoke to the Rail Commission for them to consider saving the train station. Unfortunately, they voted to go ahead and knock it down.
Oh, gosh.
And that's so much of our history ends up that way. But the Children's Museum, you have another piece of, it's beautiful history, the soldiers.
Yes.
Outside of the Children's Museum.
Yes.
Why don't you say how those came to the Children's Museum?
So it's kind of an interesting story. And I don't want to mix up my words here, but it was Ad Art, I believe, the company that created them. They sat in front of their location for quite some time off of 99, and a lot of people will come by and say, I remember seeing those guys. But I believe the story is that they were sent out to San Jose, I believe the Bay Area, to sit in front of a toy store. And there's 3 of them. A lot of people don't see that third one. He's in the back of the museum, but there's 3 of them there, and they sat in front of that toy store, and they're in closed glass for quite some years. And when I believe the toy store was closing down, Ad Art took them back for some time, and so that's where you saw them. A lot of people remember seeing them off the freeway, and I believe it was when Ad Art was closing down, or when they were maybe making some changes, that they decided to gift them to the museum. And I've seen newspaper clippings of them hoisting them up, and it was just such an exciting thing. And people really recognize the museum from the soldiers, and so they are there to stay. They're not going anywhere. They're kind of our iconic feature. And there are 3, 2 in the front and 1 in the back, and they're amazing. It's pretty cool to have more history tied to the museum, like you said. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes. So actually, that was kind of my idea.
Okay.
I'm glad Ad Art thought of it as well. But
yes.
We would always travel on 99, and I'd see those soldiers, and I'm okay, they're sitting there. Wouldn't that look nice at the Children's Museum?
Really? Oh.
So the universe heard
your cries.
And they brought him over there. And that's the kind of thing we need to see with our history, that, and I'll tell you a story about that. So most people go down to Vegas to gamble, or get married or whatever they're doing. But I don't gamble, but I love to just go there to see the architecture, see everything. But then I'd been going for so many times, and I said, no, I want to see if there is any history in Vegas.
Right.
Where is the history?
Right.
So I'm I got online and I got this little thing, and we're like driving around trying to find places, and like they're right in the middle of tearing something down. I'm going, oh geez.
Yes.
Okay, we have to have more than this.
Right.
Is there anything? Yes. So they had a neon museum.
Oh, I have heard of that.
The neon museum.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. So you go out to like the outskirts of Vegas, and they have almost like a big dirt lot, and they've taken all the old signs that somebody was knocking down a building. They would rescue the sign, and then they put it in this dirt lot.
That is so cool.
They are in bad shape and all, but
right.
But you pay a certain amount. I think it was like $20, and you can go into this lot and look at all the signs.
That's really cool.
And there they are.
Yeah.
They could be restored.
Mm-hmm.
They could be reused.
Right.
Done and whatever. And then I haven't been to the new building, but there was some kind of a structure. It was just the most fabulous architecture, and it was going to be torn down. Somehow they lifted this whole thing, and they brought it over to be like the new office for the Neon Museum.
Oh,
and
okay.
They put it down, and now it's like their symbol, and it's on their shirts, and oh my goodness, you saved the building, and it's associated. But when we were having the tour and looking through, guess who made the signs?
Oh no, really? Ad art.
Ad art. I'm going,
how cool.
Stockton and Vegas are connected. So,
that's neat.
So wouldn't that be something? I challenge Garrett Daniels. His family has a neon business.
Oh, very nice.
But we have so many signs around Stockton. We could do the same thing. Find a lot, put all the signs there, charge people admission, and there you go. You got the Stockton Neon Museum.
Well, thank you. No, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
We need more people like you.
Oh,
you have such passion, such joy. And every time I've come to you with an idea, you don't say no. You try to think about how can we make this happen.
Right. It's so important for the community.
Yeah.
It really is.
So, when people are out there, they want to do things, so many times they get shot down.
Yes.
And they just, no, we can't do that. Well, why not?
Right. At least try it.
So, I mean, I think to myself, if the word no didn't exist, if you had to say yes, how would you make it happen?
There you go.
And I think that's what Stockton needs.
Right.
We don't have to go ahead and knock that train station down. How can we make it? How can we save it?
Right.
And it just broke my heart that there was a woman there who had gotten married in that train station.
Oh my gosh.
And she brought her wedding photos, and she said her family had helped fix it up, and her grandfather had died there. She was so invested in this thing, and hearing that the place was going to be torn down, she was in tears.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So we don't have to end up like that.
Right. Absolutely.
We can have so much better, and the Children's Museum is an example of that. What can come out of tragedy?
Right.
How we can salvage it? How we can have some real vision?
Right.
And all these new traveling exhibits you have, and all the wonderful things you do.
Yep. So. No, we're happy to be here, and we're fighting strong. So keep bringing new people out.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
So that was Behind the Art Scene at KXVS, the voice of Stockton, with my guest Marianne Prieto. Go visit the Children's Museum, and I'll see you next week.